public please be upstanding for the worship for the Mayor of Gedling.
Yes, you're between us. Thank you very much. Please be seated. So first I'm going to start with item 1, thought for the day. Unfortunately, none of my chaplains were able to attend the meeting today, so I've asked the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sandra Barnes, to read out a thought for the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thought for the day is: kind hearts are the gardens, kind thoughts are the roots, kind words are the flowers, kind deeds are the fruits. Take care of your garden and keep out the weeds. Fill it with sunshine, kind words and kind deeds. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now move on to item 2, apologies for absence. Can I ask any of the relevant members to confirm if we have any apologies for absence, please? Councillor Rachel Ellis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have apologies from Councillor Alex Scroggy, Councillor Ruth Strong, and also from Councillor Roxanne Ellis. Thank you.
Any apologies from Councillor Sam Smith's group?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Apologies from Councillor Martin Smith.
And Councillor Hughes, any apologies?
Apologies from Councillor Clyde Towsey Hinton, Mr. Mayor.
And Councillor Whiting?
Both here, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 3. Mayor's announcements. Since the last meeting, I have attended many more events with my consort Michael. I was delighted to visit the first Netherfield Rainbows, Brownies and Guides for their Promise Award presentation at the Loco Youth Centre in Netherfield alongside Councillor Alison Hunt. Many of the young people received an award and recognition for their dedication to our community. I want to pay particular tribute to young Gracie, who received the Celtic Cross, for persevering with her membership of the Brownies despite facing many health challenges. Well done to Alice Masters and her team for their continued work to support and build confidence in our young people. At the weekend, I also joined the St Vincent de Paul group at the Good Shepherd Church for Christmas dinner. For more than 60 years, the SVP has been a powerful force of compassion in our local community of Gedling and beyond. And from visiting lonely and isolated people to supporting those who are struggling, their work has been exceptional. Thank you to St John Paul II SVP President Ken Steele and his wife Anne Steele for their dedication, along with all the volunteers and fellow SVP members for their continued work in supporting some of the most vulnerable people in our borough. On Sunday, Michael and I had the pleasure of attending a charity football match at Carlton Le Willow's 3G Football Centre in aid of Macmillan Cancer Support. This event was hosted by Snakes United FC, and we were welcomed by the club founder Jordan Atkinson and his team. Jordan and everyone involved with the club do some incredible work raising money for different charities over the year. And what really stood out for me and Michael was how Snakes United FC welcomes players of all abilities and creates a supportive and friendly environment, especially supporting each other around mental health and well-being. I look forward to continuing to support the club's work in the future, not just because there is usually a pint or two afterwards. Can I remind members that I'm also holding my civic carol service at the Good Shepherd Church on Friday the 19th of December at 7 p.m. There will be mince pies, mulled wine and Prosecco served afterwards, with a grand raffle and some lovely prizes which have been donated by some very kind people and organisations in the community. All proceeds will go to the Motor Neurone Disease Association and the MNDA Nottingham branch, and all are welcome. And once again, just want to add as well a thanks to the Good Shepherd Church and Father Philip for their continued support and friendship in supporting the Mayor and the charities. Thank you very much. So we'll now move on to item 4, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from members? Councillor Sam Smith.
Forgive me if I don't need to declare this, but I watched the Rushcliffe Borough Council meeting and they had to. So all dual hatters, people who sit on the county council as well, declared an interest at Rushcliffe because we'd already voted on it at County Hall. So just checking if we need to do that here. And if we do, I declare that on behalf of 3 of us this side.
Yeah, I think, probably best you do, actually. So Councillor Smith has. Councillor Adams raised his hand and, Councillor Bestwick. And Councillor Clark. And Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Obviously, once the Secretary of State decides to statutorily consult on the options sometime in the new year, members of Parliament will be statutory consultees, as will a number of other people. I don't think it's a pecuniary or prejudicial interest, but I'm declaring it for transparency purposes.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. OK, we'll move on then from declarations of interest to item 5, the local government reorganisation in Nottingham and Nottinghamshire. The recommendations are on page 5. Before I go to Councillor Clark, I just wanted to say that I'm going to be flexible this evening in terms of allowing people to speak. Obviously, I'll indulge so much, but please, do try and get your points across as best you can. As quickly as you can, but I will be flexible because of the important nature of the decision that we'll be taking. So, Councillor Clark to move and Councillor Hollingsworth to second, please.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Well, let's kick it off with a statement, really, and it's bringing us up to date on the local government reorganisation in Nottingham and Nottinghamshire. And councillors, can I say really a big thank you, because this has gone on, and we seem to have meeting after meeting over all sorts of things, and this has added to it. So thank you for turning up tonight to this extraordinary meeting. Local government reorganisation represents the biggest change in our sector in over 50 years, and the eventual decision made by government ministers may be here for decades to come. So it's important that we get this right for our Gedling residents. This is a key decision, in that whatever is decided in this chamber tonight regarding the 4 recommendations in the report, it will go forward to the Cabinet to consider, that's tonight, as a prescribed in the Local Government Act 2000. So a quick recap of how we got here. On 16th of December 2024, the government published the English Devolution White Paper. This is effectively set out that all councils in 2-tier areas, such as Nottinghamshire, should aim to reconfigure into a new unitary councils. On the 5th of February 2025, the Ministry of State invited all council leaders in these 2-tier areas and small unitary councils, such as Nottingham City, to develop proposals for local government reorganisation. On the 19th of March 2025, this council met and they agreed to submit the interim plan to government and to work collaboratively with all the councils in Nottingham and Nottinghamshire. On the 21st of March 2025, Nottingham and Nottinghamshire submitted the interim plan to government containing 3 options. Option 1B, where Gedling merges with Nottingham City and Broxtowe. 1E, where Gedling merges with Ashfield, Bassetlaw, Mansfield and Newark and Sherwood. Option 2, where Gedling and the other 6 borough and district councils merged with the county council, and this option was later removed from consideration as it was deemed unviable. On the 3rd of June 2025, the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government issued its feedback on the interim plan. And on the 30th of July 2025, this council met again and recommended that the Cabinet approves further development option 1E business case. Since that meeting, officers from the 4 councils of Bassetlaw, Gedling, Mansfield and Newark and Sherwood have worked tirelessly together to produce option 1E business case submission in front of you today. And I think I ought to pause there to actually thank all the officers, because it has been one, you wake up in the middle of the night thinking of 1E. Somebody asks you your name, you'll think it's 1E. It's gone on and on, but there's been actually some really good work and interesting work that's been carried out. Option 1B and a separate bid by the City Council known as Option 1B2 has also been developed, although the City Council bid was late in coming to the table and has not received the same level of scrutiny as the 2 other options, as it involves complex boundary changes. Again, it's more than frustrating, it's more than frustrating for me, because this suddenly appeared when we agreed in, whenever it was, sometime last year, that we'd only put 2 options forward. But anyway, it's there, so that's the way it is, and that's the way we've had to go. Maintain independence and commonality of data in all the options. Ashfield and Broxtowe have provided input on advisory basis, and PricewaterhouseCoopers and SITFA have produced a financial analysis to ensure consistency and comparability. Mr Mayor, on reviewing of all 3 of the published options, this report recommends the Council to support 1E, where Gedling merges with Ashfield, Bassett, Mansfield and Newark and Sherwood for the following reasons. Public engagement shows it is a people's choice. It has the most sensible and recognisable geography. It offers a financially sustainable and resilient solution in the longer term and starts to return financial benefits quicker. It improves the delivery of local government services for residents, and it best aligns with existing partnerships and connections between health, police and other public bodies. It aligns with the strategic ambitions of the East Midlands Mayor. It also accelerates and delivers housing growth and offers the best option for Nottingham City to grow. It builds on natural, organisational and transport linkages. And for every one of our Gedling residents struggling with the cost of living, it will cost you less in council tax than the other 2 options. So that's bringing you up to date where we are. It's been for me, I know personally, it's been very frustrating. It's probably frustrating for other people who think opposite to the way I think. But we've got to do this. And it was the other day we had a meeting, a Teams meeting. I chaired it. It was a national Teams meeting, and this was for APSI, and it was people who were going through the process of actually what's happened in their area and how they've gone on as they moved into a unitary. And 3 and 4 years, Mr. Mayor, 3 and 4 years down the line, it's still in what I would call a mess. People are still going in different directions. So we've got to try and improve on that and try and make sure that if whatever bid we've got, we make a success of it. So I'll move the recommendation, which is on page 5, and I'll look forward to hearing people's opinions. Thank you.
And Councillor Hollingsworth to second.
Yes, I'll second, Mr Mayor, thank you. The preferred option, 1E, draws a clearer north-south split in Nottinghamshire that reflects existing community, housing and economic patterns. This boundary alignment will feel more natural for residents in Gedling, connecting them with similar communities rather than being merged too directly into the Nottingham urban core. In fact, 1A received the strongest support in the public engagement, in part because of its geographical logic. It provides opportunities for investment, sustainable growth and opportunities for Gedling residents. And the independent analysis by PwC found 1E favourable in terms of financial viability. 1E will make it easier to coordinate key services like social care, health services, policing, waste and highways, improving responsiveness and accountability. In summary, Mr Mayor, supporting 1E offers Gedling Borough a strong case. It aligns with both independent analysis and public sentiment. It promises more efficient, sustainable and coherent service delivery. It helps safeguard Gedling's interests in the new governance structure by working collaboratively with like-minded councils. It would better enable long-term planning, growth and representation. Mr Mayor, by playing a proactive role in approving 1E tonight, we have a good chance of influencing how the new unitary is structured and ensuring local priorities are embedded in the new authority. I urge all councillors to vote in favour of the recommendations as set out in the report to Council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll now move on to allow everyone else to speak. So, Councillor Mike Adams.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, everybody. We've been here before. We're obviously into a number of votes now. If you sit here, as Councillor Smith mentioned, or you sit at County Hall, we are well into this process now, and it feels like we are at Gedling have a solution that actually meets what I think a lot of the councillors in this room will back up. we don't want to be included with the city. The residents, the 6,000 or so that we've petitioned, don't want to be a part of the city. That's very clear. That's resounding, actually, and continues to be so. The conversations in the hallway, the conversations in Christmas markets, the conversations in the pub, wherever you go, one of the opening gambits when people realise who you are and what you do is that they really do not want to be a part of this city. And in fact, we had a meeting today with a resident from one of our villages in Stoke Bardolph. And again, the first thing she said to us was, we do not want to be a part of the city. And this isn't a reasoning that is not unfounded in logic, because let's be honest, no matter where we've looked over the past years, the city's performance has been pretty terrible. Not just that, we've also found that, when we were even considering our own contracts we were running in the city, in fact I brought a motion to this council about that, because we wanted to ensure that that we weren't connected and therefore at risk at the time with the city, because the concern was such in the community with all of the problems they were having. Now, whether that be Robin Hood Energy or the tram or, whatever that was, that has been a cause for concern for our residents across our borough. But regardless of that, I think there's a lot of logic to LGR in the sense that it does bring and solve an issue, and the issue is we have a lot of replication across local government, and there's a sense in trying to find a solution to that. We have 1E in front of us today, and as far as Gedling residents concerned, and consistently throughout this process, Gedling councillors, Gedling Conservative councillors specifically, have voted to keep Gedling out of the city, whether they've been here or at County Hall. Now, this isn't my favourite solution, I'll be completely honest with you. My favourite solution still remains as a County Hall option, because I think we match and understand the services. We've worked intrinsically together for a number of years. We understand the processes. If I need to get something fixed, I know where I go for that. And I think the residents have a level of comfortableness with that also, that they also know where to go. The councils are already working together in terms of road repairs, education, healthcare. And I think, the additional cost that's going to create in order to effectively tear us away from that existing relationship and put us into a new relationship that, let's be honest, gains us not a lot in the grand scheme of things as Gedling residents, as Gedling taxpayers. We're concerned about the high rates of tax that are coming. We're concerned about the levels of adult social care, the way that the level they're being run at in the city at the moment. We're concerned that our residents are going to be dragged in to that situation as well, and their level of care is going to go down as a result of that. There's a conversation about it's going to be a new council. I'm sorry, but it really isn't going to be that. We're still going to have an upper tier authority that's absorbing second tier authorities into it. And so we're going to continue with those same existing processes as they stand. That's not going to change. It's going to have a new name. It may have new people operating it. But the reality is we are going to be running within that framework. It's been good to be able to communicate a lot with councillors, both of all parties, who are on the same line of thinking as us. They believe that it's a terrible move to connect to the city. In fact, joining, as Councillor Clark mentioned, joining up with those other councils as we are. I can see that they can see the lack of benefit to people in their own areas. And let's be honest, we were elected by the people in our areas. We weren't elected by people that live in the city. We were elected by people within our area to represent them. And I think they would expect that we would represent them in a way that was beneficial to them and their families and their futures, and not in a way that's detrimental. And I feel that us doing anything else other than moving into this area of 1E, whether we, at this stage, like I said, again, personally, I would rather go with a county option. But if this is what we've got on the table, this is what we will back, because at the moment, this is the best offer on the table for Gedling residents in the Gedling area. So tonight, I would ask all of you in here that were elected by Gedling residents to back those people tonight. Don't let those people down. We've seen places across the county already where that's happened, where people have been elected on a promise of delivering on the issue and trying to prevent that connection with the city, and they've let those residents down. Some of these people would have never voted before, but they've been let down. let's make sure this time that on this council that we back the people who elected us, and we make sure that we do the best for them, and we back 1E tonight. And let's say to them all, look, we've got you in our minds when we're making our decisions. We're doing this for you. We're doing this for the right reasons. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to give my thanks to the leader, John Clark, the Chief Executive, Mike Hill, and the leaders and officers of the other councils for doing all the hard work that has got us to this point. Much of what I want to say, I've said before, and other councillors have made similar comments, so I don't want to take up too much time, but I think it's worth reiterating my main points. I am totally opposed to this whole process. There was no public clamour for local government to be reorganised. It wasn't in the Labour Party manifesto, and it is fundamentally undemocratic by drastically reducing the number of councillors from over 400 to just 184 based on the option 1E proposals that we're discussing tonight. To dress that process up as devolution is somewhat disingenuous. Having said that, we can't just bury our heads in the sand because it's not going to go away. So a decision has to be made, which is why we are here tonight. Of the two main options, 1E is the more logical, both geographically and economically. It also reflects the wishes of the people of Gedling, who are utterly opposed to becoming part of the city. However, the City Council's proposal to expand its boundaries to take in the urban areas of the surrounding boroughs does have its merits. Geographically, it makes sense as there are good transport links and many borough residents work in the city or take advantage of its facilities. It would also cement Nottingham's status as one of England's core cities, a status which might be diluted if it had a large rural hinterland. I haven't had time to read the city's proposal in detail, so I don't know how it stacks up economically. So I find myself torn between the logic of an expanded city and the wishes of the people of Gedling, the people who elected me. The head and the heart, you might say. Having given it much thought, on balance, I will follow democratic principles and vote in a way which reflects the wishes of our residents, and thus vote for the submission of this before us this evening, albeit with something of a heavy heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Any more speakers, please? Councillor Beswick.
Just be here. Yeah, I don't want to labour points either that people have already made. I think it's fair to say most of us don't want to be in this position of having to make a choice like this. If we were going to go down the unitary route, probably most of us would have preferred city to be the city and the rest to be the county, certainly to start with anyway. I represent a rural ward, and that includes Ravenshead, Limby, Papplewick and Newstead Village. And another concern of mine, apart from what everybody's already said, is that if we do become part of the city at the moment does not have the expertise or the experience in dealing with things like flooding, rural bus services, etc., etc. But the number one priority for me, and it has always been, whether I've been at the Borough Council or the County Council, is to represent the wishes of the people that I represent. And I can tell you that I've had about over 300 conversations with residents since this process started, and 100% of them have said they do not want to be part of any new council that includes the city. So whether you call that an expanded city, a new city, a bigger city, whatever you want to call it, they do not want to be part of it for all of the reasons that other members have very clearly and eloquently made. So that is the point I wanted to make. Mr. Mayor, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Whiting.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Can I start by reiterating, as always, that my thanks and respect for the officers that have been putting this stuff together over the past 11 months. If the chief exec and the monitoring officers have got any sleep, I'd be amazed with the amount of work that's gone into this. But the whole thing has been as shambolic as it has been unwanted, I think. We started off with our 9 proposals, then we went down to 3, then we went down to 2, then we went back up to 3, and now it looks like maybe we've got 4 because some people want one that's not even on the table. A lot of this debate and discussion has gone from people who want to see the city expanded, whether that's the right or wrong word, has been about how we feel, about where do you tell people that you live when they ask you where you live. Well, I tell local people that I live in Netherfield. I tell people who are from the East Midlands that I live in Gedling. I tell my family in America that I live in the middle of the UK. I don't think we can just do things based on kind of feelings. I think there has to be some kind of evidence-based, and we have to listen to our people, and that's certainly what I intend to do this evening. I don't know if anyone actually watched the County Council meeting last week, the afternoon session. If anyone missed it for any reason, I would recommend watching it, because I actually agree with Councillor Smith. Sam Smith stood up. Sam Smith stood up and he said, option 1E will leave everyone worse off. They'll receive worse services and they'll pay more for it. And yet he's going to vote for it tonight. This is the absolute mad situation, and I've got a lot of respect for you, Sam, and I know you're voting for the least bad option as you see it tonight, but that is the absolute mad system that we are faced with. So we talked a lot about this process, about collaborative working, and the report that we've got in front of us was authored, I think, by the 4 councils that are going for 1B. But actually, in the report that the Chief Exec has written, his introduction, it sets out the extent of this collaborative working, which is Nottinghamshire County and Rushcliffe want option 1B, Bassett, Lord, Gedling, Mansfield and Newark and Sherwood want 1E, Nottingham City want option B2, Ashfield don't have a preference, and Broxtowe don't want any part of it. So there are going to be 5 different options put forward to the Secretary of State, who is going to sit at his desk in London, presumably write them all on a piece of paper, put them in a hat, pull them out, here we go, here's your local government reorganisation. Absolute madness from start to finish. On the public engagement, I did a couple of engagement sessions in Colic, and I know nearly everyone has done these kind of sessions, and the overwhelming majority obviously said that they don't want to join the city. But I just want to draw people's attention, if I may, Mr. Mayor, to paragraph 115 in our report pack, which I believe is on page 10, because there's some absolutely fantastic language in here from the Chief Executive. It says, the engagement exercise did not demonstrate strong public support because 58% oppose it. Now, in my mind, that actually demonstrates that a huge number of the public don't want anything to do with this whole process. And what a strong message it would actually send from this meeting and the other meetings that have taken place around the county of councils that don't want any part of this. If we sent a message to our MPs and to the Secretary of State that we don't want it. And if Westminster want to try and impose something on us and call it devolution, well, then let them. But I don't actually think they would have the guts to do it because they know the political cost that would take. I don't think it's any surprise to anyone that option 1E was the favoured in Gedling. I don't think it's any surprise to anyone that option 1B was the favoured in Broxtowe and Rushcliffe. And I don't think it's any surprise to anyone that Broxtowe doesn't want anything to do with the city, although they're in this in 1B and 1E. And I have said this before, but I'm going to say it again. By voting for 1E tonight, we are basically saying we don't want to be part of something, but it's good enough for our neighbours who live down the road. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say that our neighbours should do that. But just at the back of the pack, if I'm not pushing my luck too much, Mr. Mayor, we've got the list of the number of councillors that we're going to have. And I draw everyone's attention to the fact that this new 1E council is going to have 96 councillors, which is absolutely massive. Probably be one of the biggest in the country, perhaps. But some of the sizes of the constituencies and the number of residents that we are going to have. So, for example, the area that I currently represent in Colic is going to be in the new seat on page 460, row 16 of Colic, Carlton and Netherfield, 10,558 residents and 2 councillors. And that's not just looking after roads and things that county councillors look after at the minute. That is looking after everything, and it's going to leave our residents in Colic and Netherfield in the south of Gedling having their decisions and their lives affected by councillors who live in Retford and Worksop and other parts that have no connection to our area, don't know the area, and vice versa. I wouldn't want to be taking decisions on things that affect Worksop and Retford because I don't know anything about those areas. This is, as Councillor Hughes said, this is not devolution. This is a power grab. We should call it what it is and we should oppose it. And I just want to finish, Mr. Mayor, by pointing out that on page, I think it's on page 11, it says, I'll just read from the report, it says, at this stage, it is not possible to quantify the costs and benefits to the council and local residents. So we are being asked tonight to vote for something that is unwanted, unpopular, with no democratic mandate, and we're basically going in blindfolded in terms of the costs. So I think we need to be clear about what we're being asked to vote for tonight. I'm going to vote against this because I am against the whole thing, and I think it's a crazy idea and should have never got out of the Whitehall office that it started in. For the benefit of whoever does the Conservative social media, I am not voting against it tonight because I want to go in with the city. Okay? Councillor Maltby, are we clear on that? I'm voting against it because I'm against the whole thing. And if we want to do local government reorganisation, we should have taken a hell of a lot more time than the 9 months that we've been given. Because I can guarantee you, whichever council we end up with, will be in 3 or 4 years' time in a mess. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Maltby.
Firstly, can I reassure Councillor Whiting that he will get an amnesty from me on that one? Can I just start by, again, thanking Councillor Clark and all the officers for the hard work, dedication they put into this. We must remember a lot of these people here are also residents, and it's very difficult to remain detached from the job you need to do in your own personal feelings, so thank you. I actually did attend Oak House, Councillor Whiting, and it was very entertaining, to say the least. One thing that did concern me is during that meeting, the leader of Notts County Council said the people of Gedling, well, the people don't care. It's not that the people don't care, they don't care for LGR. That's what they don't care for. In the public consultation, as previously said, 10,000 residents found that option 1E received the most support, that Gedling should not be joining the city. However, nowhere through that consultation was there anywhere where someone could say, we don't want this whatsoever. So, in my perspective, that was flawed right there. As Councillor Adams says, our group did a petition and we had, we did have 6,000 signatures. That's now rising to 6,500 signatures. And when you bear in mind that the whole of the county got slightly in excess of 10,000, and in Gedling alone, we've had nearly 6,350 signatures saying they do not want to join the city. I will be listening to the residents. We also conducted a 2-week snap poll, and we had about 2,000 people take part of that. And it was quite simple. Yes or no. Do you want to join the city, or do you not want to join the city? 92% of those 2,000 people said no. Facebook has been alight, partly my fault, I'm afraid, but Facebook has been alight with people, the vast majority of them saying they don't want to join the city. So, based on the overwhelming opinion of the public, and that the residents in my ward, because I've spoken to a lot of residents in my ward, I'm going to be representing the overwhelming majority of my ward and the residents of Gedling who say no. So unfortunately, I will be backing option 1E. But what I will say is I do agree with Councillor Whiting that I think the brakes should be put on this completely. This should be stopped. The public have no appetite for it. It's been rushed. I do believe it's flawed, and I do think it should be stopped. And for me to best represent my constituents, forget my personal feelings. I was born in St Anne's. I grew up in Sneinton and then moved to Aspley. I've spent just as many years in the city as I have in the county. I do not want to go back to the city. Thank you.
Okay. Can we have some more speakers? Any more speakers? Anyone? Yeah, Councillor Brocklebank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to join in with everyone else by thanking the leadership of the council. In such a short time with limited resources, they managed to bring a reasonable and logical plan and paper for us to debate in the chamber tonight. We also want to recognise the work of Councillor Sam Smith, who is the leader at Notts County Council, at the outset of these plans. And I believe he entered the discussion and negotiations regarding LGR in good faith, and it's just a shame that hasn't been continued by his successors. I have 3 key points I want to get across today, but I'll try and keep them brief. Like many residents, I would love Gedling to remain unchanged. Unfortunately, that option is not on the table. I raised concerns this summer that a proper independent consultation had not been conducted with residents about any of the proposals that were on the table at that time. But I was pleased to see that consultation did take place over the autumn across Gedling and the whole of Nottinghamshire, and residents were able to put their views across. Now, this consultation wasn't perfect, and they never are. But it did clearly show a preference for those that took part that if the status quo wasn't an option, then 1E was the clear favourite. You only need to look at a map to see it's the option that makes the most geographic sense, and the papers that we've got tonight and the presentation from Councillor Clark and Councillor Hollingworth make clear the case for the economic and financial grounds, and that's why I'll be supporting the recommendations today. At the last council meeting, there was some discussion about LGR and the effect on some of the local projects and investment that are planned in the borough in the next couple of years until the new authority comes into place. It was insinuated that some of that investment and improvements should not be prioritised in areas that could be split off from other areas of the borough in 3 years' time. Now, I understand that we're all elected in our own wards and we're answerable to the residents that elected us, but we all also represent Gedling Borough and its interest as a whole. A rising tide lifts all boats, as they say. And I want to be clear that regardless of where the new boundaries fall, residents of Gedling rightly expect that we'll do everything in our power to improve and invest in all areas across the borough while we're still here. And as councillors, we should not fall into the trap of trying to play one part of the borough off against another just because it's politically expedient. Finally, I want to thank everyone who's spoken in this debate and in the prior discussions on this subject. There's obviously and rightly a lot of passion and pride in Gedling and the successes of this council across the previous administrations over 5 decades. However, I'm sure it hasn't escaped anyone's attention that some of the rhetoric in the lead up to the local elections in May, comments that have been made in the local press and posts that have been shared on social media regarding councillors and staff at this and other councils has pushed the boundaries of acceptability. I want to take a moment to remind all councillors that the Nolan Principles and the Gedling Borough Council Members' Code of Conduct exists and everyone here has signed up to them. I specifically draw your attention to the General Conduct Rules, which state, as a councillor, I treat other councillors and members of the public with respect. I treat local authority employees and representatives of partner organisations and those volunteering for the local authority with respect and respect the role they play. Respect means politeness and courtesy in behaviour, speech and the written word. Debate and having different views are all part of a healthy democracy, and as a councillor you can express, challenge, criticise and disagree with views, ideas, opinions and policies in a robust but civil manner. You should not, however, subject individuals, groups of people or organisations to personal attack, and I ask that every councillor here reflect on that point when they decide how they're going to communicate about LGR moving forward. Some of what we've seen over the last 12 months has been nothing short of shameful, and I hope we can draw a line under that tonight. I will attempt to finish on a positive note, Mr. Mayor. After the vote tonight, the decision regarding LGR will be passed on to the government and the civil service, who will make a final decision. I hope that means that some of the nastiness and divisiveness that has pervaded this process can be moved to one side. We are entering the Christmas period and the season of goodwill. So I'll end on a hopeful note, and that hope is that every member in this room will commit to working together respectfully in the 2.5 years remaining for this council to ensure that we leave a legacy that our residents can be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brocklebank. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with everything that's been said so far. Councillor Whiting, yes, option 1E is the least worst option, but it's one that we have to support. I represent a rural area of Calverton. For 12 years, I represented Calverton, Woodborough and Lamley on the county. On many committees, adult social care, children's. I understand what services that we delivered as a county. I believe that a county option would be the best. I've seen firsthand how the city deals with those social care and social responsibility and how it struggles and how it doesn't meet its needs. So for us to enter into an agreement with the city would be absolutely diabolical. It'd be the worst thing for our residents. Being parochial, speaking with my residents in Calverton, no one wants to join the city. The city would be the worst option for us. We've had those distinct boundaries for years. We're a village. We're not anything like the city, are we? We don't work like the city. We work as a village. So it wouldn't work. So I will support option 1E this evening as the least worst option and represent my residents in Calverton and hopefully keep them as a village and look after them as I promised I would do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can I start by commending Councillor Brocklebank for his balanced contribution to the debate, but also specifically for the point he made at the end. Let me join him in saying that some of the attacks on elected representatives locally online on social media, including, by the way, some carried out by people sat in this room, have been utterly reprehensible and unacceptable. They should stop. In a democracy, we settle our differences in this chamber and at the ballot box. We don't settle them by trying to harass and intimidate elected officials to try and turn their position to the position that you stand by. And there are people in this room who have been doing that, and I'd call on them tonight alongside Councillor Brocklebank to stop what they're doing. It's not decent, it's not nice, and it's not the way we do things in a democracy here in this country or here in Gedling. And I also think it's looked on very dimly by members of the public too. Mr Mayor, tonight is about one simple question. What kind of local government do we want for the people of Gedling and Nottinghamshire, and what is in Gedling's best interests? Do we want a future council structure rooted in real communities based on evidence, shaped by meaningful engagement, or do we want a confused, unconsulted, boundary redrawing structure that tears apart Gedling's existing communities? Let's be clear about this. The North-South option in front of us tonight, 1E, the creation of a Sherwood Forest Council for Mid and North Nottinghamshire, which would include Gedling, and a South Nottinghamshire Council covering the city and the south of the county, is the only option, I state the only option, that passes the test set by government, by evidence, and crucially by the people that we serve here in Gedling. It's also the only option which keeps Gedling separate from the current Nottingham city area. And let me be clear about this as the Member of Parliament for Gedling. My constituents have told me in significant numbers that this is a priority for them. And if it's a priority for them, it's a priority for me as their Member of Parliament. More than 11,000 residents took part in the formal engagement exercise which was held across Nottingham and Nottinghamshire this summer. The message was overwhelming. The North-South council structure proposed tonight makes sense, I quote. It reflects how people live, work, travel and identify. It keeps, as has already been said tonight, communities with shared heritage together. It builds on existing public service partnerships in the NHS, policing and in the voluntary sector, and crucially, it is financially sustainable and deliverable within the timetable that has been set. The option before us tonight, let me be clear, is the public's choice, and so it should be our choice too as their elected representatives. Now compare that to the alternative proposal by the City Council, which they have every right to make. Their proposal tears apart established districts and boroughs. It redraws boundaries without justification, and astonishingly, Mr Mayor, it wasn't even consulted on with the very communities here in Gedling that it affects. Not once. That is unacceptable in my view. Government guidance has been crystal clear on this matter. Councils must engage members of Parliament, residents, partners and businesses, and they must provide evidence of that engagement. I'm afraid to say that the City Council's option fails on every one of these obligations the government set out. And beyond the process failures, Mr Mayor, the proposal itself simply doesn't add up. It cherry-picks areas on a subjective and at times contradictory idea of a so-called Greater Nottingham Nottingham, leaving some communities like our own in Arnold and Carlton in, and other communities like Hucknall out, for no coherent reason whatsoever. It risks resentment and confusion in communities, it creates winners and losers, and it offers no strong financial or public service delivery justification for the boundary changes that it demands. This was, Mr Mayor, an explicit requirement set out by the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. By contrast, Mr Mayor, the North-South model delivers balance. It avoids the mass disruption of boundary changes which would be costly and timely. And crucially for me as a Labour politician, it reflects real communities. Perhaps the most telling point, it crucially creates a fairer distribution of deprivation across the two new councils. There would be a 3.1% imbalance in deprivation under our option 1E, and instead there would be a 12.3% imbalance in deprivation under the Reform-led County Council and Conservative-led Rushcliffe Borough Council backed option 1B. That matters for funding, it matters for services, it matters for long-term sustainability. Crucially, as a Labour Member of Parliament, it matters for those most in need of support across Gedling. And when it comes to the Reform-led County Council and Conservative-led Rushcliffe Borough Council proposal to put Gedling in a future Nottingham City Council, but place Rushcliffe in a North Nottinghamshire Council, ask yourself this. Does anybody out there seriously think that the proposal to put the City Ground and the Trent Bridge Cricket Ground in a North Nottinghamshire Council makes logical sense? They are self-evidently in Nottingham. And ask yourself this. Does anybody seriously believe that the people and the communities of Sutton Bonington in Rushcliffe on the border with Leicestershire have anything in common with the people and communities in Retford, 60 miles to their north on the North Nottinghamshire border, just to the south of South Yorkshire? The North-South split option proposed tonight strengthens Nottingham's ability to grow as a city sensibly and thrive regionally. It aligns perfectly with what Derbyshire's structure is being proposed, and it supports the work of our East Midlands Mayor. It gives us, Mr Mayor, two strong, coherent, community-focused councils that can get on with improving lives rather than redrawing maps. Back in 2018, I was proud when I sat on this council as Deputy Leader to help lead the campaign to protect Gedling's identity, resources and assets when the idea of a super council for the whole of Nottinghamshire was put on the table. And now, in 2025, I'm just as determined to ensure that Gedling's identity, resources and assets are protected. Gedling joining a future council with Ashfield, Mansfield, Newark and Sherwood and Bassett Law gives us the best chance to do that. Finally, Mr Mayor, I'm supporting the option of a North-South split, with Gedling remaining out of the Southern Nottinghamshire Council, because moving Gedling into the Southern Nottingham City-focused council will almost certainly result in an immediate hike in council tax of more than £100 per each household in Gedling. This would be as a result of council tax harmonisation, which would be a legal requirement. This, in my view, as their Member of Parliament, would be unforgivable in the middle of a cost of living crisis. Local government reorganisation has been debated for years. I, and let me be crystal clear about this, as the Member of Parliament for Gedling, would much prefer that Gedling were remaining unchanged. My view has been on the record about that for years. But let me also be pragmatic and practical. It's a view, by the way, shared by many of my constituents. If change must happen, let's tonight back the proposal built on evidence, engagement and genuine community identity, not the one built on guesswork, last-minute briefings to the press and unconsulted and costly boundary changes. So I'll finish by saying this, Mr Mayor. Tonight, on behalf of the people of Gedling, I say this. Let's listen to our residents. Let's protect Gedling's identity, resources and assets, as this council has always proudly done. And let's move forward with the sensible, balanced, publicly supported option that is before us. Mr Mayor, I'm strongly supporting and endorsing the option 1E proposal before us tonight, because it is the proposal before us that best meets Gedling's interests. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Sam Smith.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is, as has already been said, the biggest shake-up to local government in 50 years. And as Councillor Whiting pointed out, it's a very difficult decision. This is a difficult debate. At County Hall, I didn't vote to put, I didn't vote for any of these options for arguments that have been set out. Nobody wants to be part of the city. But in this chamber, we're all here to represent Gedling, aren't we, rather than the county when you're at County Hall. So, of course, I am forced to vote for option 1E, to be on the side of the residents that we represent in this chamber today. And as has been said, 11,000 people took part in the county-wide consultation, but then we've got 6,000 people signing a petition in Gedling only, saying no to the city because the social care services are worse. They've been effectively bankrupt twice, services are being cut, and council tax is going up. So they're quite right to say no. And tonight, as their representatives, we can vote to be on their side and say no as well. That's quite right. What I am disappointed in is that since July, when we last debated this, we quite rightly, as part of the recommendations, voted to continue working with partners on other options that could have come forward as a result of the criteria slightly changing. And I think the Reform administration at Nottinghamshire shamefully have had their head in the sands, not spoken to the leader of the city, not spoken to the members of Parliament as frequently as I did when I was leader going through this, as far as I understand, and just cracked on with what they see as best, which is putting Gedling in the city. And I think that's wasted a hell of a lot of time, of good officer time, good council leaders' time, Councillor Clark and others, getting round the table with the members of Parliament and saying, actually, let's not dance to the government's tune of 500,000 and district building blocks nonsense, which was eventually watered down. But let's look at what's best for the areas we represent. And that may include the city expanding into its urban natural boundary. Fair enough. Fair enough. But nobody's had that grown-up conversation because of the awful leadership at County Hall. And for that, it's a great shame for our residents here in Gedling and across the county. The county-only option would have saved £8 million on the disaggregation costs of services for adults and children's care. And that's £8 million that everybody in this room would love to have seen spent on our parks, better roads, better GP services in our wards and across Gedling and the county. But that's not going to be a possibility with 1E and 1B. And that's a frustration. And I think it would be, there'd still be a huge saving of less than £8 million, but a saving nonetheless if the urban boundary option was to be debated and looked into, and that opportunity is now gone. But I do hope government come back and say, come on, let's be sensible and let's look at that. I will vote for 1E, but tonight, as I've said, because that's what my Trent Valley residents want, that's what Gedling Borough residents overwhelmingly want. But I just want to stress, which I tried to stress in July and probably went on for too long, Mr. Mayor, and I won't tonight, but we tonight can leave this chamber and Councillor Payne MP can go to Parliament and say, we voted to protect Gedling from the awful city, and we've just hashed that argument out. Great. But the opposite of that, of voting to protect Gedling, is to put Rushcliffe and Broxtowe into the city. And I think that's an awful thing to have to vote on. Rushcliffe, whether you like it or not, they have low tax brackets, lower than most councils in the county, but they have the highest tax income in the county because there's higher banded properties and more of them. 70% of the whole adult social care and children's service budget at Nottinghamshire County Council, with adult services being £350 million alone, 70% of that cost and demand is delivered in Mansfield and Ashfield. Mansfield and Ashfield are going to lose with us voting for 1E, and I'm guilty of that. I'm going to vote for 1E. But Ashfield and Mansfield residents, and Gedling to some extent, but a lesser extent, are going to lose the area that helps pay for those services if 1E becomes a reality. So whoever gets elected to the unitary authority on day one is going to be faced with two options. Cut public services, because you now can't afford the level of service quality you're delivering now, and end up like the city, or increase council tax, because you've just lost your biggest cash cow, for want of a better term. And that is the stark reality of 1E. We've saved Gedling, but we now need to increase council tax to deliver services. And that is the reality of this horribly rushed, awfully conducted process of LGR. And nobody's mentioned that tonight, but I think that we need to be absolutely clear on that, because that is exactly the second outcome of tonight's vote. The first being we saved Gedling from the awful mess. The second thing being we're going to lose the highest council tax income. And I think we need to be clear on that. And that's why very reluctantly I will be voting for 1E. And I really, really hope that the government get these options presented to them and think, God, what were we thinking? We're not going to do that. We'll come back to the table. We'll listen to sensible people like Councillor Payne MP, and don't minute that, and Councillor Clark, to be fair, and come up with a really sensible option, which is the city can expand a little bit because it needs more council tax. Let's just do that. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Jane Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's very rare I speak at full council, so this is a rarity. What I do is, I think I'm one of the few councillors who listen to everybody else and respects everybody across this chamber and their views, and I think I'm good at that. But tonight, I'm going to be a bit selfish and just talk about Calverton, which is a fantastic place to live and a fantastic place that I represent. It's a lovely village. But even now, we struggle sometimes being a forgotten village. We've got a lot of housing, we lack infrastructure, sometimes the waste services aren't good, and now we've got the threat of not having a leisure centre, which I will fight right till the end. No matter what the Secretary of State chooses, I'm worried about the impact on Calverton, very worried. But tonight, I think I will vote for 1E, because at the moment I think, like my colleagues have said, it's our best choice. But I'm not completely happy, but we'll just have to go with it. But I will be voting with it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Allen. And hope the residents of Calverton don't feel forgotten. I'm looking forward to joining them on Friday for the light switch on.
They're not forgotten.
Are there any further comments? Councillor Meads.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I might be a bit of a one-off in this chamber because I'm looking forward to LGR. Like Jane, I represent Calverton. I don't think we do very well at all out of Gedling Borough Council or the County Council. And I hear all these speeches about how the County Council used to be brilliant and all the rest of it, but I'm the governor at a school in Calverton, and EHCPs take years to come through while the school doesn't get any funding. The roads are absolutely abysmal. Long Drive, Orchard Drive, Leslie Grove, third world roads. The pavements are absolutely knackered. They don't come along anymore, the County Council, and clear the vegetation from the footpaths or next to the main roads. And less than 2 weeks ago, some residents had to get together and crawl under a bridge to clear all the silt from under the bridge because the County Council wouldn't come and sort their own bridge out to stop their houses from flooding. It saved 7 houses. County Council still not turned up. Then we get on to Gedling as well. Last week they didn't empty the brown bins again. They didn't empty the business trade waste on Friday like they should have done. So we got businesses in Calverton with nowhere to put the food waste over the weekend. We've done 3 recent consultations. The first 2 have been completely ignored, completely. And on the 10th of December, we'll find out the 3rd one's been ignored. So, yeah, I see it's been rushed, like everybody says. There's been a lot of acrimony on Facebook from Councillor Maltby and Councillor Bestwick in particular. Even though I voted the same as them last time, voted exactly the same.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. I've not said anything on social media.
Councillor Bestwick, that's not a point of order.
Clarification then, please. What were I supposed to say?
Oh, you shared Councillor Maltby's
Excuse
pictures.
me.
Sorry.
Can I allow, you've made caught your point. Councillor Meads.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's been a lot of aggravation as Councillor Brocklebank said, it's all been stirred up. Everybody in Calverton wants not to be in with the city. And everybody in Calverton wants better services. That might not happen with LGR, but I can't see it getting any worse than it is now. So I'll be voting for option 1E, and I'd like to call for a name vote so that Councillor Maltby doesn't have to stay up all night photo shopping me outside outside the Market Square again on a motorbike. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I need a seconder for a named vote. Councillor Whiting. Have we got any more speakers? Sorry. Sorry, that just made me laugh about the motorbike.
Can I just say, Mr. Mayor, because I don't think I've used my last 5 minutes up, if he's going to do it, can I be on an Orton this time, not do Catty?
Thank you, Councillor Meads. So we've had a proposer for a recorded vote and a seconder. Were there any more speakers before we move on? Councillor Clark to close them.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Pull that down a bit. Yeah, I've heard, I mean, there is a consensus running through all this, apart from Andy, who moans about everything. But, I think, Andy, if you've proven, I've seen the literature that's gotten the actual responses to some of your complaints about lack of, help from Gedling Borough, etc. Yes, there may be some bins missed, but most of it is down to finance and things like that. You've been proven beyond doubt that Gedling have looked after Calverton as well as they possibly could. But there is a consensus running through here, and that is that we need to move to 1E. And one of the strongest things there are the people that represent, the people that we see every day. And I've seen them today here. I've had people who've come into the foyer down below, collared me today. I got collared in Carlton today. Please do not go into city. There is a message there. There's a clear message there. And I think some of that, at the end, I'm not going to stir World War III up here, but some of that's been brought on by the reputation that the city have rightly or wrongly gained, and people are very nervous about that. But and I've just seen some funding on the investment committee for the MCA, and all the money's going everywhere else. And I see that would probably happen if we did join the city. But the thing is, when you've got, when you chair any meeting, anybody that chairs a meeting, and you've got your list, I think we've got 4 items down here to get through in a recommendation, you get them through as quickly as possible without the war. I could go on all night about various things and disputes and everything else. We don't want that. We've got to make whatever happens, and I should be disappointed if we don't end up with our northern unitary, but we've got to try our best to make it work, because the people that will get damaged, not only yourselves, but the people out there will get damaged, the residents of Gedling, and we have to listen to what they say. In our place, we've got excellent support in Parliament, and that's Michael. I didn't realise Michael was going to jump out the budget debate today and come flying down here, but it is a welcome backup there. But Michael and the other MPs are now on board fully with 1E, and they will be working together. So they're right in there to lobby the ministers, and we are trying ourselves, all the leaders that are involved with this, are trying to see the ministers to put the point of view. But I thank everybody for I can understand the concerns of everybody, but there is that theme that runs through it. We have to go for 1E. So therefore, Mr. Mayor, I am moving that recommendation, which is on page 5. It's A, B, C and D, and hopefully the council will pass it. But I do appreciate other people have their own ideas and their own thoughts on it, and that is great because we've got a democratic country. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. So we're voting on the recommendations on page 5. So, Mike, are you going to do a roll call?
I will, yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
For this vote, when I call your name, please state either for, against or abstain. So we'll start. Councillor Adams.
For.
Councillor Pauline Allen.
For.
Councillor Roy Allen.
For.
Councillor Jane Allen.
For.
Oh, Allen, sorry. Is it Allen? Okay. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Barnes.
For.
Councillor Bestwick.
For.
Councillor Brocklebank.
For.
Councillor Clark. For. Councillor Creamer.
Abstain.
Councillor Duncan. Councillor Elliott. Councillor David Ellis.
Abstain.
Councillor Rachel Ellis.
Abstain.
Councillor Elwood.
4.
Councillor Feeney. Councillor Fox.
4.
Councillor Greensmith.
4.
Councillor Hollingsworth. Councillor Hughes. Councillor Hunt.
4.
Councillor Maltby. Councillor Ron McCrossan.
4.
Councillor Viv McCrossan. Councillor Meads.
4.
Councillor Nayuk. Councillor Paling.
Abstain.
Councillor Payne.
4.
Councillor Pearson. Councillor Pickering.
4.
Councillor Catherine Pope.
Abstain.
Councillor Graham Pope. Mr Mayor, Councillor Robinson Payne.
4.
Councillor Sam Smith.
4.
Councillor Wheeler.
4.
Councillor Whiting. Councillor Wilkinson.
Abstain.
Mr Mayor, that's carried. Thank you.
Okay, that vote is carried. Just want to say thank you very much to everyone for the debate. I think it's all been quite amenable. I just wanted to take this opportunity to wish everyone a happy Christmas, because this is the last full council meeting that we'll have until after Christmas now. There will be a cabinet meeting straight after this meeting at 8 p.m. to make the final decision on the matter in terms of Gedling Borough Council. If members plan to stay to hear this, can they please move to the back of the chamber? Thank you very much. I close the meeting.
Members of the council, members of the public, please be upstanding for the worship for the Mayor of Gedling.